with the debt clock ticking every second and the national debt over $17.5 trillion and unfunded liabilities well over 200, I think approaching 250 trillion. Cory Heidelberger is here, and the question of the day, Cory, is how do you feel about government spending? Should we stop where we are and not spend more, or do we just keep floating checks?
I'm going to disagree with the first one. No, we don't just stop and not ever spend more. I've criticized Senate candidate Stace Nelson for making a statement like that, saying that's irresponsible fiscal policy. You don't know what's going to happen next year. I'll go for the extreme and we'll work backwards. If Russia invades Ukraine, and if we, for whatever reason, decide, well, we can't let that stand, we're going to invade Ukraine and take it back for local Ukrainian fascism. Duh. Suppose something like that happened. We might need to spend ourselves into greater debt to fight off, the Russians, like Reagan did with the Cold War. There are always reasons one could give to say, you know what, even though debt is not good, we need debt now.
Okay, absent a national emergency, would you put a cap on federal spending?
I don't think I could even take that position. I don't want to impose an arbitrary cap. I want to look at what are our revenues. What can we afford to pay as a country? What do we need to get done as a country? And that's the thing. I wanted to walk back from extremes. Obviously, if Russia invades Ukraine and if we respond, we got to do something.
I can't imagine you walking back from extremes.
Well, it happens. But we do this. We talk about extreme examples and then try to work our way back to less extreme examples. Fighting off a Russian invasion, that's extreme. Yeah, we got to spend more money. Funding health care for Americans, that's something we can debate. Well, it's important, but it's maybe not as pressing as an invasion, but do we need to do it? Is it important enough for our economy, et cetera, to do? And if we spend more money on it now, will it actually create a firmer economy later on once we've done that investment? Just like people do at the kitchen table where they go, honey, we can't afford a $150,000 house. We don't have the cash, but let's increase our debt. We'll get a house, and then we'll have equity, and our kids will have a place to study, and we'll be better off later. Public investments are just like private investments in that regard. There may always be a case for saying, you know what, capping our debt right now is a bad idea.
What my friend Cory has just done is spent 2.5 minutes opening a door big enough for a semi-truck to walk through and say,
drive on through,
there's no limit to spending in America.
I think that I can smell the slogan that comes from that, but I'll agree with that. I don't think it makes sense fiscally to set some arbitrary dollar number and say America will have $17.5 trillion of debt and not 1 penny more. That line, why 17.5? Why not 16? Why not 15? Why not 0?
Why not 0?
Well, why not? Believe me, ask my wife. She'll tell you, I hate being in debt. I do not like debt at all on a personal level.
But it's okay for the country.
I don't like debt. But even as I've recognized in my home, there are times where debt is useful and not destructive, where the benefits outweigh the costs.
And have we crossed that line in our country where it's no longer useful, but it's in fact destructive?
I will agree that the enormous debt that Republican administrations of Ronald Reagan and George Bush both Bushes racked up for us, have limited our policy options. And they set up a situation where in 2008 and 2009, where we have a recession and we're heading toward depression, and we need to take firm government action to keep from having a depression and making us all out on the street eating beans instead of shooting video.
I'm not sure that this is ever going to be aired.
Oh, but you see, here's the thing. If George Bush and Ronald Reagan hadn't racked up such enormous, irresponsible debt, we'd have had more wiggle room to respond to the recession with stimulus spending that would not have sunk us as deep into debt.
So it's reckless and irresponsible for Republicans to add to the debt. And
No, Gordon. No. It is reckless and irresponsible to go to war and not pay for it when you have the means to do it, or not have a fiscal exit strategy. That is what I would say is reckless and irresponsible. I don't need to say a partisan thing there, but I'll go for it if you want.
What would your responsible solution be to $17.5 trillion debt?
The responsible solution to $17.5 trillion debt would have been perhaps bigger stimulus in 2009 to have more effective economic stimulus to generate more revenues. It sounds counterintuitive. I know it sounds nuts, and you can quote me on that. Nuts, nuts, nuts. But the fact is, yes, sometimes you do invest more, spend more, rack up more debt at the beginning in order to make more money at the end. Sometimes it works. Sometimes, i.e. Annette Bosworth's Senate fundraising campaign, it falls flat and doesn't work.
Let me just suggest to you, Cory, that there are some things I agree with Democrats on wholeheartedly. One comes to mind. President John F. Kennedy had it right when he cut taxes so as to increase revenue. And
sometimes it works.
maybe it's time to give it a try.